Hello, my name is Oranim, and I'm the CEO of First Media. We're one of the top 10 social media publishers in the world, and though we're big now, we didn't start this way. We started being active in social media about 4 years ago, and at the time it was a very small team, with a few people working in one small office. However, we grew up quickly, and today what I would like to do is to share with you the ways we think about content on social media in order to make it more viral, more capturing, more attention grabbing, more shareable, and obviously more call to action. And I would like to do that in a way that is applicable to you and that will help you be more successful with your business and promoting yourself on the different social media platforms. So first, a few words about us, and then we're going to talk about the toolkit that we have and we use and that you can use as well in order to improve and optimize your content. So First Media is a social media publisher. As I said, we operate multiple brands in the different social media platforms, from home decor and lifestyle through food design and recipes, through beauty. We're also operating parenting brands. One of them is Baby First, which is about educational content for babies and their parents, and Zumbini, which is all about dance and learning through motion and boosting the bonding between parents and their children. Now, we reach about 71% of US women every month, but not less important, we reach more than 170 million followers through the different platforms. We generate more than 1.5 billion views every month, and we're meeting a lot of people face to face in the different physical locations where we're active as well. One of our key philosophies is that we should meet consumers wherever they are, whether it's the small screen, the bigger screen, or out of home. And the thing that we're proud the most of is how engaged people are with our different brands. And as you can see here, we have really exceptional engagement rate, because we know how to create the content in a way that people will feel that they have to react to it. And that's exactly what I'm going to share in the next few minutes with you. So let's talk social first. As you know, social media is everywhere. Billions of people are active and using this these days even more than they watch TV in many cases. And the most important thing for you to remember when you think about social media is that social media equal mobile. Don't test your content on desktops, and don't think about your content in desktop way. The prism that you need to implement when you think about social media content is that most people will watch it through their mobile. So everything should be mobile optimized, and your entire goal is to make it the best for mobile experience. Now, when I think about what the goal of, why we do content and why the brands that we work with are interested in social media content, it's very simple. And it comes down to one word: discoverability. We want people to discover things that they didn't necessarily think about originally. There are two paths to purchase something, whether it's a service or a product online. One is the intention path, where you basically know what you want, and therefore you go, you type what you want, you gather information, and then you act on this information. But most people are not that accurate, and are much more impulsive and not necessarily rational. So when they see something that they really like, they may impulsively and without prior planning act on it. And here is where we, content provider, can help service providers or brands to make people take an action even though they didn't plan to do it originally. We're going to show in a few minutes how we generate and how we initiate this discoverability. The next thing to remember is that people are very engaged when they watch social media content, and that, you know, the important thing here is to know how to convert impression, which means being exposed to your audience, to actually people starting to watch your videos and then to take some kind of an action. There's a very deep know-how on how you do it effectively. And obviously, through content that you can create, you can cut the clutter and reach people even though they are exposed to so many different commercials, advertising pieces. The right content can cut through this and get to the people that you're interested in the most effective way. Now, not all content was created equal. And I want to give you an example. And it's not just a self-serving example, but I want to share with you what is behind this example. So what you can see here is basically 3 different videos that shows basically the same thing, creating very similar recipes with very similar ingredients. However, one of these was extremely more successful than the other 2. And if you haven't figured out who's the one that did much better than the other 2, I'll give you 2 hints. First, it did twice as much as the second best video, and not surprisingly, it's ours. And the question is, why? Why did we reach so many more views than the other 2 videos? What exactly did we do? What general principles did we implement in order to make sure that more people are exposed to this, and that more people start watching this content, and that more people keep watching it and keep sharing it so other people can be exposed to it as well? That's the topic of what I'm going to talk now. Now, in our case, we involve a lot of algorithmic thinking in addition to the creative capabilities as well. So we use a lot of technology here, but there are some very basic rules that everyone can implement, whether you are a 1-person company, whether you're a 10-person company, or whether you're bigger than that. These rules are applicable, I would say, across all platforms and all content categories and verticals. Some of them are very common sense, but the issue here, the most important part, is really focusing on them and being committed to them so you can actually optimize what you do. It's easy to say, and it's much more difficult to actually implement what I'm going to show you right now. So this is the tool of the most important principles that you can implement on creating social media platform. And I will explain each one of them in more details. One is about knowing your audience. The second one is about the importance of the first second of your video. The third one is about the importance of execution and excellence in execution, the details, the small but critically important details. Then it's about understanding the psychology of content sharing, which is critical to your success. Then it's about format choice, and then about the importance of innovation and trying new things, and then obviously listening to your viewers, understanding what they are telling you, and acting on what they tell you. Now, let's start with the first one, which is about your audience. You can't create the same content with the same amount of success to different people. You need to really understand what your audience is, who's buying your product or your service, what is important to them, and what will make them talk about it and basically be your sales force for you. And on social media, as you all know, word of mouth is critically important and basically feeds the virality effect of your videos. Best way to do that, to really know your audience, is to talk with them, and whether it's in focus groups or just in interviews or conversations, but you really need to go deep and understand also the alter motivations and what they not necessarily telling you, but actually thinking and doing. Data, by the way, is the best way to know your audience, what makes them buy, and you need to constantly experiment and see how they react to different types of triggers and stimulations. Now, this is probably the most important part of creating content in social media, and especially on Facebook and Instagram, the opener. The fact is that you have half a second between the time that people scroll from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen. That's the amount of time that you have if you create content on Facebook to capture the viewer's attention. Half a second. That's a very short period of time, and it's critical because once you scroll down, you're done. That's it. You never focused on your content. It's not a view, and you gained nothing by being exposed to this person. And Facebook will also know that you're not a good content source. So it may limit your exposure because Facebook wants people to watch the content that it exposes to them. That's the best way to know if this content is good. And Facebook is interested in good content, which means content that converts exposure to views and then to shares. And what does it mean that the first half a second is so critical? It means that you have like one shot to capture my attention. And the question is how you do it. So I want to share with you a few examples of our learnings of how you capture people's attention in the very brief period of time that you have to do that. And I'll show you a few examples here. But I would say that the common denominator here is the following. One, using relatable and common objects is usually more effective than using weird tools or very professional tools that most people have and they don't care about and they're not interested in. So common objects are good to capture people's attention because they are relatable. The second thing is surprise. Surprise is super important. It's important to use what people think they know in a way that they don't necessarily know. So in these different videos, each one of them generated, I would say, hundreds of thousands of views. What we did is we used a very common object in a very uncommon way. On the first video to the left, what we did is we started a video about peeling techniques with peeling a shrimp with a fork. It's very simple when you think about it, but people are not aware of this. People don't think about peeling a shrimp with a fork, and therefore once you show it, it grabs their attention and they start watching the video almost to the end. This video by itself did more than 500 million views on Facebook and was the most successful food video 2 years ago. Then second to the left, we see a video that we created for Walmart about mug cakes, and we started this video with cutting a marshmallow with scissors. Now both scissors and marshmallow are very common objects, but cutting marshmallow with scissors is not so common. And therefore, we're able to get a lot of views for this Walmart video and get a lot of people start engaging with their product. On the second to the right was a video that at a certain point in time was the most viral video in Facebook history. And what we've shown in these videos is different ways to break the clutter in your closet. And we started this with how you arrange women's underwear in your closet. Now, starting with women underwear, as you can imagine, get the attention of both men and women, and therefore, from all the different tactics that we've shown on how to get, on how to break the clutter in your closet, this one was the most attention grabbing, and because of that, we started with this tactic. It's very important, by the way, that you decide, if you're showing a few hacks in your video, to start with the best one, because you don't have a second chance, as I said. So always start with your best hack or your best visual. And on the right side, that's a video that we created for Blusher, our beauty brand. And what you see here is actually the opposite of beauty. Sometimes ugly is the way to best capture people's attention. Sometimes being gross, the opposite of beauty, is actually more effective as a tool for grabbing people's attention, because people are also attracted to gross things. And in the right case, that's the best way to grab their attention. Now, the little details of choosing the color palette and choosing the speed of what you that you use to show whether it's preparing a recipe or doing something else is critical. And I will show you a few different examples and what each one of them mean. So what you can see here on the left, you can see slow motion and colorful. Slow motion is usually as attention grabbing as fast forward, which is also very effective. In the middle, you see the importance of strong basic colors in capturing people's attention. And then on the right, you can see how important and how fascinating is fast forward. And that's why we use it a lot. So in many cases, we use both fast forward and slow motion techniques, and both of them are, as I would say, attention grabbing when you use them correctly. Now, share is the key to success in social media, especially in the most viral platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. And it's very important that when you think about your target audience and what moves them, you also think about what makes them share. Now remember, when somebody shares your content, he or she takes a big risk. It's a social risk. Because when I share something, that means that I'm saying publicly that I think this is cool content, that this is smart content. And if my friends and family thinks that this is stupid content, then I come across as stupid. So many people are very careful and very selective with the content that they are willing to share. So you need to go this very fine line between creating content that is interesting enough, surprising enough, sometimes bold enough, but at the same way, you need to make sure that it doesn't come as vulgar or very politically incorrect, because then people will be very, very cautious and will not share it. You can make it shocking, but still you need to stay at the safe zone so people are surprised enough to think that it's worth sharing, but feeling confident enough that if their family and friend sees this content, they don't change their perception of the person who's sharing this content, because that's a risk that no one would like to take for any content creator. Another thing for you to pay attention to is the fact that share usually happens close to the end of the video. So you need to make sure that before you get there, you retain your viewers. In many cases, a lot of viewers drop at the beginning. That's fine. It happens to everybody, including the best of us. But the people who will share it are the people that are committed enough to this content. And usually what creates their commitment is the fact that they watched it enough and they were impressed enough with your content, and they think that sharing this content will basically make them look smart, effective, and funny. So you need to remember, it always has to make them look good. If your content doesn't make them look good, your viewers will not share it. Now, choosing your format is also a critical decision, and it shouldn't be a random decision. When you think about which way you need to create your content, you need to think really well what your goals are. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to make people aware of the service that you supply or the products that you are trying to sell? If that's the case, there's one way to do it. Are you trying to convince that your brand or service is better than others and explain why? That's another type of video. Or are you trying to make viewers actually take an action and do something? If you are trying to make them take an action, you must be very, very clear what the action should be. And you must put it in their face. You have to be very clear about it. If you're more in branding and creating awareness, then your content can be much softer. We are differentiating when we create content between branded content or editorial content, which just tries to entertain and therefore is optimized to create more views and more shares by being funny, surprising, helpful. And we have a very different type of content, which is about call to action, whether this action is downloading an app, buying something online, or subscribing to something. These type of videos will look much more like the direct response commercial that we remember from TV. They will be short, to the point, very salesy, and very clear about the action that we want you to take. But even here, it's critical that you remember the rule of the first second. You have to grab people's attention in the first second or half a second, because otherwise nobody will be there to even being exposed to your great arguments of why they should buy your product or buy from you your different services. And one important thing is the need to experiment. Now, the need to experiment is not as trivial or not as intuitive as you may think, because in many cases, when something works well for you, it basically means that you are now much more conservative. You become more conservative. You are less inclined to take risks by trying new things because you already have something that is working for you. So you need to remember to avoid this success trap of doing only what is already working for you. Because the fact that it works for you today doesn't mean anything about next month or next year. And being and staying successful in social media is a daily, very tedious process of trying new things, and as you may imagine, failing many, many times before you are successful again. And you need to try and fail constantly. And when I'm saying try and fail, I'm talking about the verticals that you're trying to do? What type of content are you trying to create? Is it about food? Is it about other things? The way you sell your service or product, the way you start your video, the way you end it, the text in it, the different creative strategy. Are you going to show yourself? Are you going to use an influencer? Are you going to show the product? Are you going to talk about the service? You need to constantly experiment, and experimenting means taking risk, because new things are by definition more risky than things that are already established. But on the other hand, you can't maintain your success or expand it if you don't try new things. It just doesn't work this way. Now, critical element is to analyze what your viewers are telling you. We have a lot of automated tools that we use because we have videos that are very viral. In an average video that we have more than 10,000 comments. So we can't analyze this with humans. We need to automate it, and we have proprietary algorithms that help us do that. But you can do it differently. And start by reading the comments. It's critical that you understand what people think and what they feel about your comments. So when you read the comments, try to understand what people are telling you. Are they engaged, but in a negative way? It's very important because it may not help you. And even though people, can watch it and share it, it won't help you if the sentiment here is very negative. You need to achieve both virality and a positive sentiment in order to serve you well. Also, it's important to look at, are they tagging other people? If they tag other people, it means that they think that this is relevant to them. And people are much more attentive to specific tags than to general shares. Because if somebody tagged me, it means that somebody that I know, probably like or trust, think that this type of content is relevant to me. So I'm more likely to pay more attention to this type of tagging than just a general share. So check what the sentiment is, whether people are tagging other people and therefore thinking that this is very relatable, and whether there are certain words, whether they are very positive or very negative, that you should pay attention to. Understanding the platforms is critical to create the right content and the right version for different platforms. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each platform and what it's good or not so good for. We'll start with Facebook because it's the biggest one. This is the most casual platform. People are watching it when they don't have anything better to do, and they spend a lot of time with it. And in many cases, they take impulsive actions based on what they've seen. That's what makes Facebook such a great marketing machine. But on the other hand, you have to remember that because it's so casual, the first second is so critical. You don't have time to get to the point. You need to get to the point immediately and in a way that will stop the scrolling and will make people look at what you have to offer, at least for a couple of seconds. Hopefully, you can retain their attention and make them share. And Facebook is the most optimized platform for shareable content. Now, Instagram, another great platform for discovery, which, as you remember, is people thinking about products or services, even though they didn't think about them before, but because they were exposed to something interesting and surprising, they're now considering doing something. And because Instagram is so visual, it's a great platform for impulse buying. Now, YouTube is more of a destination. People go there when they have intent in mind. The intent is usually to be entertained or to learn about something. So whether it's a how-to or whether it's just, entertaining video, they will probably look for it. So they already have the intent, And what it means for you is that when you create content for YouTube, you have more time to get to the point. You don't have to hit the viewer in the first second with something that they cannot look away from. You have time to build your story because this is more of a destination. So the pacing can be different, can be slower than Facebook or Instagram, and you can create also longer videos that will still be effective. Snapchat, very visual storytelling, and you need to remember to keep it visual. Less words, less talking, show it instead of talking about it. TikTok, the current very hype social media platform is great in creating engagement, usually through music. The music element here, the music choices are critical. The target audience is also younger. So in our case, there are a lot of products or services that we don't show in TikTok because they are not relevant to younger viewers. So remember that, if you are offering a service or a product that is not relevant to this age group, just don't bother, go to the relevant platform. But if you are trying to do something successfully in TikTok, think deeply about the music choices and make sure it's also funny and engaging. And last one, Pinterest. Really like Pinterest. It's another platform where people are coming with the intent to do something. Unlike YouTube, they don't necessarily know what they want to do besides general concept, like I want to do like a great brunch, or I want to decorate my room, and they are looking for ideas. So this is a platform that is mainly about inspiration, and people are coming here to learn. And like YouTube, they will also give you a little bit more time here to teach them something. And it's also very, very visual. So you need to create your visuals that are very strong and very compelling if you want to get noticed. And the last thing, which is very important about Pinterest, remember that in many cases, people will pin it and watch it later. So plan accordingly. And as a general summary, I would say that, talking about social media and virality, these are great buzzwords. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are, saying we need to create viral content. We need to have virality. But as long as you don't have a plan, it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to happen to you by mistake. These videos are very rare. It's like winning the lottery. But if you plan accordingly, you can have much higher virality than without a plan. And as I said, use these tools that I've mentioned, from the target audience to the right opener, to the pace, the details, the feedback, and make sure you constantly optimize what you do. And when you have a plan, and when you're following up on your plan and constantly changing and improving it, then you're going to reach viral success. So good luck, and remember, it's a lot of work, but if you're doing it right, it's worth it. Thank you.